Behold! Hi, I'm John Barr, and welcome to Behold, a show where I make jokes about stuff going on in pop culture, and you can watch. You can watch. You don't have to. I'll never know. I'll only know a number. Why start doing this kind of a show now? Well, it was largely inspired by an article I saw on the Wrap and read the one initial paragraph that wasn't behind a paywall for, about how a lot of movie studios now, particularly of note Disney, is prioritizing doing screenings and junkets where they invite influencers rather than critics. And a lot of people that I know and respect naturally and understandably took umbrance with this claim. I hope I'm using that word right. I'm not going to look it up right now. You see, I am neither the power-hungry influencer nor the high and mighty critic. No, I am a viewer, a fan. And as a viewer and as a fan, I am actually much more pure of a heart and clear of mind than either an influencer or a critic. Neither of these sides freaking get it like I do, okay? You see, on the one hand, influencers, they're too egotistical. They want to be seen as the conduit for which all the other creative and interesting people have to pass through. It's why you get awkward, awful TikTok videos of influencers going up to America Ferrera and being like, oh, would you rather have a gay son or a thought daughter? Just because it was a meme at one point. Like, disgusting foul behavior. But then critics, they're out to try and tell you whether or not the thing you like is objectively good or bad. I should only have to read a criticism of something I've already decided I don't like. Anything else is, frankly, basically the same as bullying. But as a fan, and as a viewer, I've been busting my ass to make sure that all of these movie and television studios know that somebody's gonna be there for all of their work, alright? I've been collecting Funko Pops since they had line number 1. I gave up my firstborn son so that he might someday play time-displaced Cyclops in the inevitable Marvel Champions movie. And when I was legally dead for 14 minutes after falling through the Disney's on Ice, it was CGI Harold Ramis's ghost himself that said, "It's not your time yet, son. Get back in your disgusting bald body. You still got more culture to consume." I am plugged in to every universe that has any important bearing on this world. I have seen everything and everything that is to come. Only I know what exactly to put on my 2025 bingo card. And as the greatest mind in all of pop culture, I'm here today to talk to you about the real meaning of the substance. Guys, a lot of people have been complaining about this movie. A lot of people have enjoyed this movie and had a grand old time with it, but there are a lot of people, particularly critics, who have taken umbrage with the movie. I love saying that word. I hope to God I'm using it right. I'm still not going to look it up. Some people have said that its message on feminism, that its Cronenbergian-esque ending is just all shallow and surface level, which just goes to show that a lot of these people fundamentally misunderstand what that movie is about. It's not about being body horror. It's not about feminism. It's not about fame. It's about one and one thing only. And that's the song One Week by the Bare Naked Ladies. Guys, let's break it down. Let's go to genius here. Spoilers for both the movie and the song incoming. I mean, just look at the first line of the song. It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Is not the whole narrative device of the movie that these two different versions of the same woman have 1 week that they get to spend? And when they're looking at each other, are they not on the ground as a bare naked lady? Much to consider. 5 days since you laughed at me saying, get back together, come back and see me. Very clearly about the call to action when Elizabeth overhears Dennis Quaid's character making fun of how old she is. 3 days since the living room, I realized it's all my fault but couldn't tell you. That's very clearly a reference to when Elizabeth has her weird little witch finger and is pissed because the substance hotline is like, no, that was you, babe. And she's sitting in her living room, sad about it, isn't she? I summon fish to the dish. That's obviously Dennis Quaid eating the shrimp in the restaurant. Gonna make a break and take a fake. I'd like a stinking aching shake. That's what the substance does to you. That's describing how it does what it do. How can I help it if I think you're funny when you're mad? Trying hard not to smile, though I feel bad. That's very obviously what's going on with Sue when she has to flash that toothless grin at Dennis Quaid and all the other boys. I'm the kind of guy who laughs at a funeral, can't understand what I mean, will you soon will. That's very obviously describing the nurse, who's also the old man at the diner, who gets Elizabeth all wrapped up in this substance situation. I have a tendency to wear my mind on my sleeve. That's obviously when it's Elizabeth's head on the back of the shoulder of Monstro Elizasue, which, by the way, we can all agree that it should have been Monstro Suzabeth, right? Like, that's so much cleaner. I don't care that it's Elizasue, probably because she was Elizabeth first, then Sue, because in this name, Monstro's got first billing, and that's name number 3 in the actual life cycle, so what's going on there, huh? It should be 3, 2, 1 if we're just doing chronological. And we should. I can't wait to read Collider's list on chronological order of Elizabeth bodies. 5 days since you tackled me, I've still got the rug burns on both my knees. That's bar for bar what happens in the Elizabeth v. Sue fight scene. Chickadee China, the Chinese chicken. Have a drumstick and your brain stops ticking. That's the chicken that Elizabeth eats. She eats a lot of chicken. You can't argue with that. And you just can't argue with that. Watching X-Files with no lights on were dans la maison, which I think is a French term, and yeah, it is a French term, and the filmmaker is French, so think about that. I hope the smoking man's in this one. Now, a lot of people won't get this, but obviously the movie was not able to get the rights to the X-Files. It's a big, popular show, but we do know for a fact that there are a lot of scenes in which Elizabeth is watching TV with no lights on, and the smoking man is obviously a specific character in the X-Files, but you know who else is the smoking man? The Mask, who is the exact same color as the substance, and that lets us know that the shady corporation behind the substance is obviously the modern business day equivalent of Loki, the trickster god. Like Harrison Ford, I'm getting frantic. Like Sting, I'm tantric. The two different sides. Being angry like Elizabeth is when she sees Sue, being tantric and doing whatever the aerobic stuff is. That's my impression of aerobics. Do we like it? Oh, aerobics, obviously often done on land, but you know where else they could be done? In sea. That's why you think you're looking at Aquaman. Almost missed that. Whew, excuse me. 3 days since the living room, we realized we're both to blame. But what could we do? That's when the two of them are alive and their own separate people and not being the one person that the substance was all talking about, and they realize what an oopsie daisy they done did. And this is all very nicely summed up in the overall song summary in Genius article. Quick summary of what's going on here. The protagonist knows that he messed up with his girl, but he doesn't want to admit it yet, so he waits it out. And that is essentially what Elizabeth and Sue trade off doing every other week, is they realize they've done their girl wrong, but they don't want to admit it. This About section also says, the only people who don't like this song are generally people who take themselves too seriously. That's the only generally kind of people that there are, is the people who don't like this song take life too serious. This is a song for the unserious, which is how you can tell that this song was also the basis for the Joker movie. All right, next up is a news story. It's about Cynthia Erivo, the upcoming star playing one of the two women in the Wicked musical movie. As she disappears from my screen. That's awesome timing. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Now, Cynthia recently took to the online airwaves to take mondo umbrage with the way that some people had edited one of the more recent Wicked posters to make it look more like the Broadway poster. In doing so, moving her hat down her face in such a way that you couldn't really see it, which meant that nobody knew that she was in the movie. This is one of many different pieces of discourse that have popped up around this movie. The fact that they're splitting one Broadway show into two big movies. The fact that it looks very green-screened and artificial. The fact that it stars Ariana Grande and the man she left her husband for, who's SpongeBob. A lot of different things I could talk about, except I can't talk about it. You see, it's actually impossible for me to be able to speak on Wicked because, as many of you know, I'm a straight guy. And I can't speak on Wicked. Like, it literally can't happen. When I decided that I was straight, I was visited by a witch who said, because you chose that, there are certain things you're just not allowed to speak on. It's why I wasn't able to weigh in on the Chapel Roan discourse that everybody was having so much fun doing a couple weeks ago. Literally, the only thing I can say about the Wicked musical is that I am excited to hopefully at some point see the Attack on Titan musical. That's it. That's all I'm qualified to say, and so that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. But you know what I can speak on is the upcoming Prince Charming movie. That's right, it was recently announced that Disney is gonna be doing a movie specifically about Prince Charming. They looked at all of their movies and said, you know what, gang? We gotta get the fellas back. We gotta get the boys back into the theaters. And as I am something of a pre-WGA writer, I thought I would go ahead and cook up my own little pitch for a Prince Charming movie. Because after all, I'm a straight guy. I know what the straight guys want to see. If there's one kind of thing Disney needs to do with its Prince Charming movie, it needs to make a movie for the fellas. And that's why I'm pitching Prince Charming as a gritty war movie. In my movie, Prince Charming lives in a fairy tale kingdom where he's a nice guy who just can't seem to find a princess who wants to settle down with him. Now, he is in love with his best friend, the Princess Zasla from the neighboring Warner Kingdom, and he wants to find a way to get out of the friend zone so that he can get married to her and form a giant monopoly with their two kingdoms. But before he can propose, oh no, the princess is captured by a group of roving warlords who believe that the landscape of rulership ought not fall into the hands of just one royal, but should instead be spread across a variety of kingdoms. I'm not smart enough to make this metaphor work entirely. All you gotta know is that Prince Charming must put together a squadron of the most alpha men that he can find to sing songs slash their way through the fairy tale kingdom to get his love back. And because this prince needs to be somebody that is very rugged, that is very buff, but also very funny and good at performing, there's only one clear pick for this role, that being Billy Magnuson. Oh, shoot, sorry, I forgot. He already played Prince Charming in Into the Woods, and he's already signed on to play Prince Anders in his own movie that's a spin-off from the live-action Aladdin movie that I'm sure everyone will know of. Okay, so not him, but you know what? You know who should play Prince Charming? There's a couple of good picks, but I think the best one is Harry Styles. Guys, give him another chance, huh? Give the poor guy another chance. So what, he did really bad in his two movies. He could let him go again, huh? He needs the prep if he's gonna be Star Fox in the MCU, and I need him to be good as Star Fox in the MCU, because otherwise, what would be the point of me remembering the character Star Fox from the Marvel Comics if he's not gonna be important in the U? Anyway, that's my pitch for a Prince Charming movie. Disney, please let me know if you would like to speak further about this, or if you decide to use that pitch to train an AI model to write a different movie instead. I'll know. Anyway, on to the next topic. A lot of people recently have been talking about this Twitch streamer Asmongold, and now more recently I've been talking about Ethan Klein of H3H3, both of whom are very prominent in the streaming and online culture space, and both of whom have said some pretty atrocious things about what's going on in Gaza and Palestine right now. And rather than actually talk about them and their opinions as if they are in any way legitimate, I wanted to instead highlight what a poor decision it is for anyone to take streamers and internet personalities who got famous off of watching internet cringe or playing World of Warcraft seriously by talking about one of my favorite YouTube video thumbnails of all time. You see, I am somewhat familiar with the live streaming landscape, and I wanted to talk about a streamer who made a video that I absolutely adore, who is not the same as these guys in that he doesn't talk about these political issues the same way, but he is somebody that is specifically a business partner of Asmongold's. It's a man by the name of @Mizkiff. Mizkiff made one of my favorite YouTube video thumbnail slash titles of all time. It is unfortunately a video that he has since changed the title and thumbnail for. I understand why, but I find it so funny that this was a title and thumbnail he had at a certain point in time. The video was titled Regarding Saudi Arabia, and it was a thumbnail of like the Saudi Arabian flag and him in the middle being like I laugh just thinking about it. It's so dumb. The video itself, which is still up, I think it's called like He Canceled Me for the Drama Now, and it's like him and Hassan Abi in the thumbnail. But it's a video of a stream highlight where he finds out that he has been called out as being one of the streamers, one of a few streamers, who took a sponsorship deal from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to go play Fortnite and plug Saudi Arabia. And it's so funny to watch the beginning of the video where he's like, oh, chat, are you guys really trying to cancel me for this? To then hopping on a Discord call with Hassan. Hassan starts, like, describing some of the atrocious shit that Saudi Arabia has done. And then Mizkif just being like, you guys, I'm so sorry. Please don't cancel me. I didn't know. And the thing is, I believe him. And again, this is not me retroactively trying to be like, screw you, Mizkif. No, this is me being like, Mizkif, thank you. Thank you for, like, the one instance I have seen of you wading into political discourse being one where you are just openly like, dude, I don't know jack squat. And if there's any chance you could restore the thumbnail and title for your video regarding Saudi Arabia, oh, it would make me so happy. That brings us to the first segment I wanted to try out for Behold the Show. It's a segment I call the OC Corner. For those of you who don't know, OC stands for Original Character. It's a way for a lot of fans, particularly illustrators, to create these characters that they can insert into the fictional worlds that they love. A way for them to kind of be like, oh, here's something that I created that exists within the same, like, fiction with the same sort of powers and the same sort of relationship dynamics of these stories that mean so much to me. Right? It's a way to express fandom in a way that personalizes it, that I think is very touching and beautiful. It's something that I think is really beautiful and touching. It's something I wanted to try out, so I came up with my first original character for my favorite fictional franchise, the Philadelphia Phillies, if they were able to win the World Series this year. Check it out, this is my guy. His name is Brayton Swaps. He's 26 years old. He grew up in the caverns of Tucson, Arizona. He was originally drafted to play right outfield for the Keystone State Boys Choir, but they eventually dropped him when they realized that he was a baseball player, and that's not what he meant by perfect pitch. That's a good joke, John. Thank you so much, drawing from John. He's 5'6". His favorite flavor is vanilla. He loves ballroom dancing. His favorite movies Meet the Spartans. But by far the most interesting thing about Brayton, I don't know if you can see, he's got like a specialty, like, both arm brace and big old glove that he wears on his right arm. And that's because very tragically, in 2022, when that truck full of monkeys crashed in Pennsylvania, one of those monkeys actually attacked Brayton. They got him right when he was in the middle of a Wawa Hoagie Fest hoagie eating championship, and he actually yanked his arm kind of loose out of his socket and was able to wave it around for a while before Brayton was able to kind of pop it back in and punch the monkey so hard that it died, which, as we can all agree, is good that he did that. However, while many people would see that as a career-ending injury, Brayton was actually able to use that to learn a lot more patience in the game, to be a lot more methodical and careful with how he uses his arm, which means that unlike the rest of the Philadelphia Phillies, he doesn't fucking swing at every goddamn pitch, you morons! Anyway, that's my OC from my favorite franchise, the Philadelphia Phillies, if they were able to lock it down again. I remember being at the parade when you guys won it that second time. Really like there to be a third in my lifetime. How do we feel about that, gang? Huh? Can we make it happen? Let's make it happen. It's good that I saved that segment for the near end, because I do have another thing I gotta get angry about. Gang, sometimes I gotta get a little bit angry. And if there's one thing that the internet YouTube algorithm loves, it's dudes who are angry about things on the internet. And I have something that I am angry about today. That being Lawrence the Band. Oh, gang, when I tell you I have not been happy about Lawrence the Band for a hot second, and that a little felt a little twinge of joy when I saw that a lot of other people also weren't liking them. Oh, I needed this. I don't care for them one bit. No siree. I thought my tolerance for this kind of music was pretty high, having gone to NYU at the height of a cappella groups covering Chance the Rapper songs, but turns out it can get a lot worse. The only song of theirs that I've been able to mostly listen to is a song called Don't Lose Sight, and I've never in my whole life have I heard a song that included the lyric, I'm so sick of the industry, feel more like it was genetically engineered to be used in a Canva commercial. I hate their music so much, and I was perfectly content for it to be just an unreasonable thing that I dislike. But now a lot of other people have tried to make it a reasonable complaint, because it turns out they're not just musicians that people don't like, no. they're also nepotism babies. Oh, they've got a dad. And this is something that's a little difficult for me to talk about, because on the one hand, I'd love to make fun of them being nepotism babies. I'd love to get into the fact that, like, one of the anecdotes that they share of how great these two musicians are is, like, the dad of Boy Lawrence got Boy Lawrence to write a song for one of his movies, and he submitted it, and they just happened to pick the one that was from his son, and he got to be like, that's the one they picked for my son, and I'm just here like, prove it. Prove that they didn't know that that was your son. But at the same time, I am also somebody that recently praised the movie Trap for being the third movie of M. Night Shyamalan trying to tell stories about being a father, and this time specifically using his daughter in that story, as being kind of like part of this parenthood trilogy. And if that's not celebrating nepotism, I don't know what is. So I don't just want to unproductively hate on Lawrence the band, right? If I just wanted to be mad at something forever, I'd just stay posting on Twitter. I wouldn't make a whole little YouTube show to share hot takes. But I really want to hold you to something, right? I want to hold your feet to the fire, as it were. Because in that song, Don't Lose Sight, you said you're so sick of the industry. Do you mean it? Do you mean that you're sick of the industry? Because the industry is your dad. Are you saying you're sick of your dad? Are you saying that you want to write songs about how sick you are of your dad? Because that would rule. That would be awesome. It's been too long since we've gotten a song, much less an album, of somebody specifically inspired by being a little bit pissed at their parents. And I think if you're gonna be nepotism babies and get your careers off your parents, the least you could do is sing a song or two about how sick you are of the fact that of that time they asked you to clean your room. And that brings us to the final news story that I wanted to talk about, and the actual reason that I started doing a pop culture show again. You see, those of you who are really familiar with your John Barr lore will know that once upon a time, when I was right out of college, I started doing a very short-lived podcast called No Shock Sherlock, the podcast about the trailer for the movie Detective Pikachu. It was a very fun and silly show for me to just get off my takes about things going on in pop culture through the very goofy lens of also talking a lot about the trailer for the movie Detective Pikachu, a movie that I thought looked very charming. As it turns out, we have news on Detective Pikachu 2. Or at least, we should. You see, there was recently a giant leak from Game Freak, the company that makes Pokemon. And one of the many things discovered in this leak, the only thing I want to touch on, even a little baby's bit, is the fact that there were in fact plans for The Great Detective Pikachu, which was set to be a sequel to the movie Detective Pikachu, directed by Jordan Vogt-Roberts. But while this plan for a Detective Pikachu sequel is there, nobody really knows what's going on with the movie. The star of the movie, Justice Smith, has even made reference to the fact that he has not heard anything about any movement on the sequel. And I find that unacceptable. Not just because I thought Detective Pikachu 1 was a pretty charming movie, not just because I love the fact that the sequel is apparently titled as an homage to the great animated classic The Great Mouse Detective, but also because Jordan Vogt-Roberts, as we all know, is the celebrated director of 7 different episodes of You're the Worst, one of the greatest television shows of all time, one of the few TV shows that I actually own on DVD, and him directing this movie would have reunited him with that star of that TV show, Chris Gere, who plays Bill Nighy's son in the movie? Where is this movie? I posit that this movie has been taken, disappeared. We've got a real mystery on our hands. And if we want to make sure that this second Detective Pikachu movie comes out, well, then we're going to have to play a little bit of Detective Pikachu ourselves. That's right. This show, Behold, is not just me talking about pop culture. It's me combing through every iota of information that I can find across the pop culture landscape so that I might find where this important cultural touchstone of a movie has been hidden away. I don't know what nefarious studio head or multiversal villain has taken this movie from us. But if you think I'm gonna let you take a starring vehicle away from Ryan Reynolds when he needs this the most that he's ever needed it, then you are sorely mistaken. Don't you worry, Detective Pikachu. I'm coming for you, no matter what it takes. And we will get you this movie so that you and Justice Smith can go on solving Pokemon crimes and come face to face with a live action cinematic equivalent of Team Rocket, this time being headed by a character played by Aya Cash. Come on, we can get the whole gang involved. Look at Desmond Borges' face and tell me you don't want to see that guy playing a frazzled Pokemon professor. Anyway, that's going to do it for this first episode of Behold. If you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments what specifically you did or did not enjoy. If you thought the segment idea was good, if you have other ideas for potential segments, other things in the zeitgeist you want to hear me talk about. And most importantly, if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit the like button. And also subscribe to the channel so that way you can see... Did it do it? Did it do it? Sorry, YouTube's been doing this thing recently where it'll register when the person in the video says the words like and subscribe, and it'll make the like and subscribe buttons light up. Isn't that weird? Isn't that kind of creepy and weird that it does that? Anyway, like and subscribe, and if I do this again, you'll see it again. Bye now.